Hi guys, and welcome to my new channel. My name's Eloise and this is my channel Eloise Reads. You will also find me on Instagram and Goodreads, and I'll link those my pages in the description box below. So I thought I'd start off by doing my June wrap up. Now, I moved house in June, so naturally reading took a bit of a backseat and I really missed it, but I did read 4 pretty good books, so I thought I'd talk you through them. Okay, so the first book I read was The Last Thing to Burn by Will Dean. I read this after my friend Emma over on Instagram, who I will link, said this book was incredible. She gave it 5 stars and she said it was on offer, and I'd never heard of it, so I was like, I feel like reading a good thriller, I'm gonna give it a go. It's unlike anything I've read before. So essentially we follow our protagonist, who is called Jane. However, Jane is not her name, and we learn that she's being kept captive by her husband, and we kind of follow Jane as she is mentally and physically abused by her husband and her desperate attempt to free herself from this. Jane is, it's implied that she's an illegal immigrant, so she has been brought to the UK under the premise that she would be working here, and essentially she was sold as a slave. So yeah, she's had a very traumatic time. This does cover and is very triggering. It covers some very difficult topics, including a difficult pregnancy, which is really uncomfortable to read. And yeah, it's about a woman who is kept captive and following her every move and everything her husband does. It's absolutely incredible, but it is triggering, so do look into the trigger warnings. I do have a review for this on my Instagram, shameless plug, which lists some of the trigger warnings if you wanted to check that out. But if you want quite I wouldn't necessarily say it's fast paced, but it is a quick read. It's not the biggest book, but this book is incredible. It's my top thriller of the year so far, and I highly, highly recommend. Then after that I was part of a tandem collective read along, which meant that I was kindly gifted this book, and I read along with a lot of other book bloggers over on Instagram, and we read through this and chatted about it. So this is the Breakup Monologues by Rosie Wilby, and this is a piece of non-fiction, and Rosie is a comedian who has a podcast and a show called the Breakup Monologues, which this is based upon. What I wasn't expecting, and which was good, is that this is written about, funny enough, breakups and relationships, but very much from a lesbian point of view. So Rosie herself is a lesbian, and she takes us through her experiences over her life and her friends' lives, of their girlfriends, their boyfriends, and their relationships over the years. I found it really funny. Rosie is a great writer. She's very witty, and you're drawn in pretty quickly to her writing style. I would also say, let me find some. When I first opened this book, there are footnotes, and I was like, oh god, I can't deal with footnotes. In fact, there's one in the introduction, so you can see at the bottom. I'm going to come into focus. Yeah. At the bottom, there are lots of footnotes. And I was thinking, oh no, it's going to be very academic non-fiction, which I don't really get on with because I'm not a big non-fiction reader. But no, they're funny little anecdotes that Rosie pops in to like add to her stories, so that I really enjoyed the footnotes. They add a bit of fun to the to some of the more technical parts, because there has been a lot of research that's gone into this, but don't let that put you off, because it doesn't read like a very academic non-fiction. It's very much a funny, almost memoir of Rosie, her experiences, and also that of her friends. I just realised I forgot to rate the books, so bear with me. So I gave The Last Thing to Burn 5 stars, and I gave this one 4 stars. The next book I read, which I imagine is going to feature on quite a lot of these videos and people's wrap-ups for June, is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I am a huge Taylor Jenkins Reid fan, but admittedly quite a new one. So the first book of hers I read was Daisy Jones and the Six, and I read that last year, and I read Evelyn Hugo for the first time this year. That book has my heart. Oh my goodness me, I sobbed my way through it. So when I saw a new book was coming out, obviously I pre-ordered it, and obviously it went straight to the top of my to be read pile. So this book, I would recommend you read Evelyn Hugo first, because whilst it's not like a direct follow on or link, we follow the lives of Mick River's children, and Mick River is one of Evelyn Hugo's husbands from that book, so it's like a nice little Easter egg, so I would recommend reading it after that. This book is based in the 80s, and as I said, we follow the River children. There are 4 of them. There is Nina, there is Kit, there is Hud, and there is... I can't remember his name. I was leaving it to last in the hope it would come to my mind. I think it's Jay. I think it's Jay. I'm going to say Jay. And they are all siblings, very into their surfing. So in Malibu, it's like Malibu summer vibes and lots of surfing. And yeah, based in the 80s, and essentially at Nina's house every year in her mansion, they have what's become famous, the River Party. And everyone who's anyone goes to this party. And this book is set over 24 hours, so we watch it from the start of the day to the next morning, and this is no spoiler, where the party has ended up with Nina's mansion being burned down. And then also throughout the story we kind of go back in periods of time to see the River's parents, so June and Mick, and their relationship, which I wasn't really expecting. I knew when I went into this, I didn't read a lot of reviews on it because I just wanted to enjoy it. And it wasn't, yeah, as I said, it wasn't what I was expecting to have those flashbacks, which I really enjoyed, and they were so sad mixed with so good, and they broke my heart a little bit. And I think unpopular opinion, probably enjoyed those more than they're like, even though it's not the present because it was the 80s, they're the focus of the book, which was the siblings and the party. But I did really love the second part where they were actually at the party and all the people there and all their different stories. I really enjoyed that because there were lots of characters and points of view. I would say Nina is probably our protagonist, but you do follow a lot of characters in this, so bear that in mind. But it's the typical, if you know Taylor Jenkins Reid, it's historical fiction, but it's like contemporary historical fiction, and I did love it. I will say, no spoilers, but the way it ended, I was a bit like, nah, underwhelmed, unfortunately. But I love her writing style, I enjoyed the story, I flew through it. I gave it 4 stars, I would recommend, but in my opinion, it doesn't come anywhere near to Evelyn Hugo because that book is just incredible. So, my final book of the month of June, and probably my favourite because it was a 5-star read, and yeah, it was The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. So I'm sure many of you will have seen this, heard of it, read it. It's been on my shelf for months and months, and before I read this book, if you just said to me, do you like Greek mythology or books about Greek mythology, I'd have been like, no, not at all, not interested, never will be, not a thing. Then I read this. So I knew I wanted to read it because I've seen 5-star reviews like here, there and everywhere. So I was like, well, there's obviously something good about this book, okay? There is something that people like. And then it was I'm part of a book club, and it was the book club pick for June, and I was like, okay, I've got to read it. I don't know anything about the story of Achilles, embarrassingly. I don't know anything about it. I know it's a reimagining of Achilles and Patroclus, I hope I said that right, and the Trojan War, but I know nothing about the Trojan War, so I don't know how much this differs from the actual original. But this essentially follows Achilles and Patroclus as they grow from young boys, where Patroclus has been exiled to Thea? I've had a mind blank. But Patroclus has been exiled because he killed a boy, so he has been exiled and now lives with Achilles and his father the king. I'm describing this so badly, so badly. Yeah, and we follow them as they become friends and they grow up and make decisions and they learn how to look after themselves, and then we follow them to the Trojan War and the battle. I'm not going to say anything more about the plot because I will literally butcher it, probably get it wrong, pronounce things wrong, not do myself any favours, so we don't want to do that. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say. Oh my gosh, if you've not read this book, I really recommend. I thought I would cry because I am a crier. I'm not ashamed to say I'm a crier. I do cry at books. I didn't cry at this, which really surprised me, but I was very sad. My heart was broken, and oh. Madeline Miller is an absolutely exceptional writer. Like, from the first page I was gripped, and it wasn't even that the characters were doing anything exciting or mysterious, it was just her writing. This is a slow book in my opinion, but the writing just takes you, you're just captivated. Again, another book I flew through. I was absolutely captivated by it, and I can't wait to read Circe by the same author. And as I said, I am now a fan of retellings and reimaginings of Greek mythology, and I have ordered quite a few books and added quite a few to my TBR because of this book. And also, I'm obsessed with this cover. I think this was essentially why I bought this book, because I just think this cover is absolutely beautiful. So yeah, I highly recommend. Book of the month. And that is my first ever wrap up. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know what you've read this month and what you recommend, and probably what you don't recommend. I'd love it so much if you subscribed. I'm going to try my best and be a regular poster on here, and hopefully I will only get better, because I feel like that was a bit of a higgledy-piggledy mess. But thank you for watching. Yeah, I will see you hopefully in the next one. Bye!